Thank you, Henry. I've a feeling with Herman I can finally find some happiness.
You will. The two of you are made for each other. Ilishka, what's happening with Herman? Folk are saying he's on the rampage.
He's been badly treated, but you'd better talk to him about it.
And where can I find him?
If he's not somewhere around here, he must be drowning his sorrows in the alehouse in Rattay. Unfortunately.
What's going on? The folk in town are talking about you.
They shat on me. That's what.
What? Who did?
All of them.
Wait. Tell me again from the start.
All right, if you want. They caught Peter of Dauba, George Weiss, and a fellow named Harold that everyone calls Frost. They're scum who've been hunted for months. Now they've finally been caught, there's a big execution being prepared. Folk will come from miles around to watch.
Well, that's a good thing for you, isn't it?
It would be, if I was fucking doing it.
Isn't it the custom for you to do all the executions in Rattay?
It is. Not just the custom, but by bloody right. You're not being replaced, they said. This is just a loan of Gallows Hill.
Well, there must be some reason for it.
If you know of one, spit it out.
So who's doing the job?
They invited Executioner Heinz all the way from Kuttenberg. They say it's going to be a big show. Have I ever fucked up an execution? I always behead them in one blow. And when his lordship wants to drag out a hanging, I leave them kicking for minutes. If he wants it quick, they're stiff as soon as I drop them. And they push me aside like that, after all these years of service.
What can we do about it?
Nothing. His lordship's decided, and that's that.
Nothing? You think they should be allowed to get away with this?
Well, no, but
You have the right to executions in Rattay, don't you?
I most certainly do.
Then you're in the right. Don't tell me you can't think what to do about it.
The trouble is, they already paid the executioner. He's come here along with his assistants.
We can't stop the executions, unless Heinz drops dead on the spot.
Maybe that could be arranged?
Hal, I'm an honorable man. What the hell are you suggesting?
It's just a joke. I didn't mean it.
A bloody stupid joke. The best thing would be if he fucked up the executions. The famous Kuttenberg executioner can't handle the job. The mob would laugh him out of town and beg me to take over. They'd never invite him here again.
Great, so how do we go about it?
The problem is, I don't know what the sentences will be. They'll only announce them just before the executions, and then it'll be too late to do anything.
Can't we just get him blind drunk?
That wouldn't work. He's no beginner. And even if we did get him drunk, they'd just postpone the executions till he's sobered up.
Suppose I liberate the convicts.
Why the hell would you do that?
Well, it would be an embarrassment, and then...
Only for Rattay, you dolt. Not for the executioner.
Would the bailiff know more?
Maybe. But most likely only Heinz will know the sentence. I've got an idea, though. Will you help me?
Of course.
Great. Thank you, Henry.
So where should I start?
Find out from the bailiff what their crimes are, and then have a look in the Black Chronicle at the Rat House.
It goes back before my time. You're bound to find records of some similar offenders in it. You need to find people who committed the same crimes and came from the same sort of background, noble or lowborn. That way you can find out what the appropriate punishments are.
Then come back to me, and we'll work out what to do.
I'll get moving.
And Henry? They want to do the executions on my gibbet at Gallows Hill. I can hold them up for a while, but probably no more than a week.
I'll bear that in mind.
Can you help me with training my dog?
Are you pulling my pizzle? You want me to teach you after what you did here?
I'm from Scarlett's and... from Scarlett's, good folk.
do you think you're doing? I've a mind to call the guards.
Oh, get the best Viking.
Garlic, carrots, beetroot, onions, all that grows in the ground. Fresh from Radziga.
God be with you.
I hear there's going to be a big execution here.
There certainly is. It'll be a glorious event for our town. They'll be talking about it for years.
Who's for the chop?
The biggest outlaws and reprobates for miles around. Peter of Dauba, George Weiss, and Frost Herald.
What did they do?
What didn't they do, more like? They caused trouble all over the country.
Who's this Peter of Dauba?
A noble who lost his fortune. He's been holding up merchants for months.
That's all?
At first, but then his gang started getting bloodthirsty. They wiped out a whole squad that was hunting them. He won't walk away from this.
What can you tell me about Herald?
They call him Frost because he's always cool as ice, until he starts. I've seen plenty of killers and thugs in my day, but that one's got the devil in him.
Why?
They say the only thing that'll put a smile on his face is the sound of screaming and weeping. That beast kills for pleasure. When they caught him, he had a candle made from the arm of an infant. For luck, he said.
Christ. What about Weiss?
No one actually knows where he came from, but they say the murdering started with him. He never leaves witnesses. He'd rather wipe out a whole village than take a chance.
Thanks, Bailiff. That's all I need to know.
Vegetable, fresh vegetable.
God save you, Henry. Greetings.
I've got some goods here whose owners might miss them.
All right. Let's see what we can do about that. Take care.
I need your advice.
Did you find out what they did? And did you read the Black Chronicle?
Yes.
So tell me what you found out, and I'll see what I can come up with.
Just bear in mind, I can help you work it out, but you'll only find exactly what you need in the Ratai Black Chronicle. Every executioner has his own way of doing things, and this bastard might have different methods in mind.
Peter of Dorba has many murders on his soul, but he's still a nobleman. He's to get 30 lashes of the rod.
That's all? They wouldn't bring an executioner all the way from Kuttenberg just for that. That doesn't sound likely.
I'll have to go and find out more. I need your advice. Yeah. Peter of Dorba has many murders on his soul, but he's still a nobleman. He's to be hanged.
They're going to hang a nobleman? That doesn't sound likely.
Peter of Dorba. He's to be tortured first.
They'd torture a nobleman? That doesn't sound likely.
Peter... His neck is going on the block.
That makes sense. His crimes are great, but he's still a nobleman, so he gets an honorable death.
George Weiss is a bloodthirsty bastard who left a trail of corpses behind him. He's to be courted by horses.
That's harsh, but then his crimes were great.
Frost Herald is the worst of them all, sent by Satan himself. The things he's done would make a demon blanch. He's to be burnt at the stake.
From what I've heard about him, that makes sense.
So, have we got everything we need?
We've covered all the possibilities. There's nothing more we can think up.
So, what's the plan then?
An executioner's greatest boast is to behead with one blow. That's why an executioner's sword needs to be a splendid piece of craftsmanship and sharp as a razor.
I follow you, but how can I get to the sword?
It won't be easy. The executioner's sword is one of his most valuable instruments.
Couldn't it just be switched for a different one?
He'd notice straight away. It's different than a regular sword, heavier with a blunt point. The balance is different too.
I could take yours and...
He'd recognize that too. An executioner knows his sword like the back of his hand. He'd notice as soon as he picked it up.
So I'll have to steal it, dull the blade, and put it back before anyone notices?
Yes, that's probably the only way.
That'll be interesting. And how can I dull the sword? Should I hack at a stone wall?
I thought you were a blacksmith, son. It's enough to cock up the honing. That will make much less noise.
That'll do me.
It doesn't happen often, but if the executioner's inexperienced and doesn't build the fire properly, he could have trouble getting it started. No one enjoys looking at a pile of wood for hours.
But how can I make sure the wood won't catch light?
That could be hard. Much as I hate to admit it, that executioner isn't some rank beginner. He'll drench the whole woodpile in oil first.
And if I switched the oil, or diluted it with water?
That could work. But make sure no one sees you doing it. He'll probably have the keg of oil right in his camp.
How about if I switch the wood?
That wouldn't work. He'll put the oil on it just before lighting it.
That'll do me.
The worst that can happen in quartering by horses is if you've weak or sick old nags. Then, no matter how hard the executioner tries, they won't have the strength to rip the convict apart. He'll just have his joints stretched nicely.
But what can I do about that? He'd notice if I switched horses.
I don't know. An experienced, rich executioner like that will have strong, healthy horses.
I could poison them.
Poison them? Do you know how? And wouldn't that kill them?
I'll just put a small amount in their food, enough to make them sick and weak.
Well, if you can manage it, that might work. He'll have the horses in his camp.
I could just steal them.
No. Then either he'd borrow some others or they'd postpone the execution.
That's enough for me. Thanks.